This is against Kiddush Chav Hey, as we know. Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis, page 278. And the Alter Rebbe is defending Teres Baal Shem Tov against an attack from the Misnagdim, right? They picked on this Teda, which is based on a Maimon Chazal, Kol HaKeis Kil Eved Aved Zara. And the Baal Shem Tov said that when you get angry when somebody does something wrong, it's Aved Zara because the Eibishter did it, and not that person. Like you bring the story from Tanakh with Shimon ben Geda, Havaya Amalek, the Eibishter told him to curse. Now the Rebbe explained it very beautifully. If the Eibishter would not give Chayas to Shimi, at that moment Shimi couldn't exercise the free will of cursing. So although Allah Nidin, Shimi is liable for a bad choice, but the Eibush also chose. The Eibush chose to let him choose. So the Eibush is a shutaf in the Ra. So mitzad you have to see it as coming from the Eibush. This is the Pashta Inyan. Pashta Pshat and Tanya. But there was a much deeper Inyan that the Misnagdim were objecting to. It wasn't just they were objecting to how can you say Hashem did it, the person did it. They were objecting to this whole idea that the Eibush is melubash in an Aveda. That the Eibishter's chayas, Eibishter's energy, Eibishter's presence, Eibishter's shchina is involved in klippa. This is something that bothered the Misnagdim. And as you know, we had a Tzaddikat Vamuna. This is one of the serious ideological bones of contention that existed between Hasidim and Misnagdim. That means, you know and I know that a lot of the Hasidim and Misnagdim was pushed plain old politics, which never gets old. Politics is always fresh. Ki yidua, mufurs, kanira b'chush. But there was also hashkafa, there was ideological issues. There were things that actually were principled, shita. And one of the issues was the Eibish's relationship with Ra. That Klippa says, Hashem, the Misnagdim said, Hashem is no shayches to Ra. Hashem is removed from Ra. I achtus, hashkacha pratis is merochik. They could not accept the idea that the Eibush is b'makam ha'ashba. Something that was completely not acceptable to them. If the Eibishter is responsible for your bad choice, and the way the wording of the Baal Shem Tov's Teda was written, it's the Eibishter's Shechina is shoira in the Rosha. When he's doing the Aveira, the Misnagdim said, I object. How could Eibishter be in the Makam Ra? This becomes really the deeper issue that the Alter Rebbe is addressing. And you'll see Taka later on in Kuf Amar Alf at the very bottom, the Alter Rebbe actually says that maybe the Metargim, the translator of the Teda, the Heilig of Baal Shem Tov, was not medactic sufficiently, because the Alter Rebbe Baal Shem Tov spoke in Yiddish and it was written in Hebrew. But this is the issue that the Alter Rebbe is now addressing. How could you say the Eibush is involved in the Ra B'chira V'Rosha? That means the Eibush is B'hislapshus, the Eibush is revealed in Ra. And that cannot be. So Alter Rebbe started in the Shir of yesterday, it says the Shir of Chav Zayin 2 days ago, by explaining the concept of Shechina. Every world has a different Shechina. Although it's one Eibishter, there's a Shechina in each world, including in Elam Hazeh HaGashmi. But when it comes to the Shechina in each world, there's a difference. In this world, there's a difference. There's Eretz Yisrael, which is Kedusha, and Chutz La'aretz. Ella. However, Sheba'artzeis Ha'umeis, in Chutz La'aretz, right? Every time you have in Tanya Evdi Gelulim, it's supposed to be Umeis or Umeis Ha'elam. This is, it was done for the censorship. Yeah, this is what Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis. Shabbatis HaGoyim, in the lands of the Goyim, HaChayis, who are the Hislapshus, the Chayis that comes to the world is through manifesting in Sorim HaChitzaynim, that means to say the peripheral, the outer Malachim of Klippa, HaMamunim Alayin Umas, that are appointed over the 70 nations. The Hainu, in other words, that the Chayis Alaki of Shechina of Asiyah is invested in Chutz La'aretz, which is Klippa, right? You know, the Gemara says, Gozral Gushav Alavira, the land of Chutz La'aretz is Tamei, and then later they made a Gzeri, even the air of Chutz La'aretz is Tamei, V'chuli, and the fact that Api Nigla, there's a Tumah on this land, means that B'pnim Yisan Yorim, that it's Klippa. So the Chayes Alaki is Behislapshus and Klippa through a Lavush. The Lavush is the Ayin Sod. The Hainu, this means, Shayeda Nitis Matar Avaya, a spark of godliness descends. Hanike B'Shem Malchus D'Asiyah, which is called Malchus of Asiyah. Umeir, and it shines al hasorim shalmaila, over the supernal angels, b'chinas makev maila, in a hidden way. So to say the Eibush is not involved in Klippa, you can't. Hashem is not involved in Klippa. Klippa doesn't exist. Hashem must be involved in Klippa. To say that Hashem is not giving chayis to Chutz La'aretz, you can't. Hashem is not giving chayis to Chutz La'aretz wouldn't exist. How could Eibush to be in Klippa? So the answer is, it's a whole system of his almos. Hashem is hidden in the klipa. Hashem is the b'derech makif. And makif does not mean surround. There's no such thing as makif. In Tanya Perek Mem Ches, makif means helam. So it's through the levush and the ayin sarim. So the Eibush just chayes has to be there, but neifan of helam. Ach einei mislabish b'hem mamish. It's not mislabish. Now the word mislabish of him means it's not revealed. And again, makif does not mean surround. Makif means hidden. But rather the flow of life to them is chayis life meha'arazu, from this radiance, shemeir aleim al maila, which shines upon them from above, b'chinas makif, in a hidden way, umehasarim, and from the sarim that are getting chayis b'deref makif from the nitus of Dvar Hashem, from Malchus Asiya, nishbe chayis l'umei sa'elam. There's vitality brought to goyim who are shalosh klipas atmeis lagamri ulebehemis v'chayis v'efis tehedim. Ulebehemis chayis v'efis, and to domestic wild animals and birds Shabbat seisayim that are in their lands. Ule'eretz hagashmius, and to the physical earth. Ule'shemayim hagashmius, to the physical heavens. Shehei magagalim, which are the galgalim. Okay, so in Eretz Yisrael, it's also a holy land. It gets chayis taka from the Shechina Vasiyah directly. Chutzlars, which is Tameh, and Derech Zeh Treif, and Goyim, it goes through the Ayin Sarim. So the Ayin Sarim again with Derech Makif, the chayis from Shechina Vasiyah is hidden from the Ayin Sarim, and then what the Ayin Sarim get by Derech Makif, they give us again by Derech Makif. So you can't say that Hashem is revealed in Klipa. But you cannot say Hashem is not in Klipa. Hashem wouldn't be in Klipa. Klipa wouldn't be. Parenthesis. Elo, however, even though Klipa gets chayes b'derech makif, but there's two types of Klipas. The sholosh was made the gamri, which is a denser Klipa, and then of course there's Klipas nega. And this is what he says: Sheshamayim va'aretz, that the heaven and the earth, which are Klipas nega, ubehemas v'chayes ve'efes tehedim, and domestic animals, wild animals, and kosher birds. Nishpai me Klipas nega, they get chayes from Klipas nega. While vatmeim, treifa animals, and nefashis, umesa'elam, the nefashis of goyim, mishar klibas, shosh, klibas atmeis lagami. And of course you have to understand that this portion means an extra levush. Everything starts from Shechina, and it was lavish in the ayin sarim of noiga, and in shosh, there's lagami, it's even more levush. So two things are true. Aleph, you cannot say Hashem is revealed in Klipa. Beis, you cannot say Hashem is not in Klipa. Klipa couldn't exist. This is the position of the Alter Rebbe. And later on, the Alter Rebbe is going to finish off saying to the Misnagdim, you have a problem with it? I'll give you the Arizal's email, send them a letter, because you're tlei aleinu t'lenei seichem, kiyam al kisvei Arizal, kuf mem amad beis. Alter Rebbe says that lashon. I'm sorry? No, it's censorship. It's supposed to be, look in the Luch HaTikun. Look in the Luch HaTikun. Any time in Tanya it says Evdi Galulim, it was changed because of a censorship. It's supposed to be Umitza Elam, and Adel, and Goy. Look in the Luch HaTikun, not in the Rebbe's Luch HaTikun, in Grossman's Luch HaTikun, in the original, the first Luch HaTikun. Any time it says Adel, Goy, look at these pages, it's a whole bunch. Look on page Kuf Tzadik Alf. It's again and again and again and again. Then you have Nochri, Hanochrim. Okay, Vine. Shamayim va'aretz v'chal asher bahem. The heaven and the earth and everything that's in them. Ba'artes u'meseilam, in the Goyish nations, in other words, the chutzlas, which is klipa, either klipas nega, u'sholosh, k'mez lagamri, as kulam, klam mamish chashivi, are entirely insignificant lagabi asarim. Compared to the malachim, shem chayis and v'kiyum, which are their life and their existence. V'asarim, and then those malachim, which are the sources of klipas nega, our klam mamish chshivi, are also insignificant lagabi achayis and imshach lahem, relative to the vitality which is drawn to them b'derech makif and helim. Mehanito, it's medvar avaya, from the spark of shchina, which is called dvar avaya, hameir aleim amayla, which is shining at them from above. So we realize that what klipa gets is almost nothing. What the Sodom gets is also almost nothing. The real chayis eliki is in shchina of elam hazagashmi. Says the Rebbe v'afal became, but the opposite is also true. And that is that achayis hanimshach l'teicha me'or azu, there is chayis which is coming into them from this light as insignificant as it is, and it's hi b'chinas golos b'teichem. It's trapped inside of them. In other words, it's in klip. You all know the translation of the word golos. We talked about this 100 times. It's what the Gemara says in chovash mater asasa beis hasurim. Golos does not mean suffering. Golos means trapped. That's all it means. Golus means I'm not free. You could be living in a palace. If you're locked in, you don't have the key, you're in Golus. kedusha in chayis that give chayis the klipa is in Golus. It cannot express itself. That's klipa. In kedusha the chayis elaki is revealed. In klipa the chayis elaki is hidden. So there is chayis elaki in klipa. It's a ma'amid matzav of Golus. Shalachei nikraim b'shem elakim achedim, which is they call the elakim achedim. And of course you know how Chassidus translates elakim achedim. Elakim achedim does not mean other gods. Because if elakim achedim means other gods, we would say like everybody in the world says, Elohim achedim. Elakim achedim means the Eibishter in Efen of Acherayim, with his back turned. And they refer to the Eibishter as only the God of gods, indirect connection. In other words, Shegam, Hein b'bchinas alakus. They also are godly, but the godliness has its back turned. The godliness is called the lakaya, and the godliness is in Golus. Consequently, the goyim, the physical goyim who get chayes from the ayin sarim, who get chayes from this nitus of shechina, hey, maybe they mamish are idol worshippers. Because what does idol worship mean? Tanya Perichav Beis. Idol worship doesn't mean I don't believe in God. Idol worship means I don't believe in the mastery of God. The way we always say it, we believe in Boirei Olam. We don't believe in Manheg Olam. He created the world in Ozav Avayas Haaretz. Avayas Haaretz doesn't say there's no God. Avayas Haaretz says there's no active God. And the reason is because the Chayes Elaki is the Ma'amid Matzav of Golus. Ades Ketz, of course, till the end of time. Shiabula Hamov as Vasit Achara. The death and the other side will be swallowed up. And of course, as the pasuk says, V'oz Epach Alam and Meguli, V'gemed, that when Mashiach comes, the nations are transformed. Likre Kulam B'Shem Hashem, to all call in the name of God. Okay? So understand two truths. We are conceding that Elokus cannot be revealed in Klipa, to Stira. But we're also sustaining and maintaining that there is Elokus in Klipa and a Matzav of Golus. V'nikra gam kein b'shem Golus hashchina. The spark of Elokus, which is in Golus, in Klipa, can also be called the Golus of the Shechina. Even though it's a ha'ara of the Shechina, which is in the Ayin Sadim, and the ha'ara of the Ayin Sadim, which is in the actual Klipas. So it's like a ha'ara of the ha'ara, if you will, of the Shechina of Asiyah, you can still call it Golus HaShechina. Because this small amount of life, which is exiled within them, is ultimately it's a shine which comes to them. Ultimately it comes from the spark of the Dvar Hashem, which is called Shechina. So though it's not Shechina itself which is in Klipa, it's a ha'ara of Shechina which is in Ayin Sadim, and a ha'ara of Ayin Sadim which is in the Klipas down here. You could still call it Golus HaShechina. The beginning of the idea of Klipa is from Eitz Hadas, which means to say that before Eitz Hadas there was no union of Golus, there was no union of Golus, so what did Klipa be? It's only the back of Kedusha. The back of Kedusha means that the amount of Chayas that Klipa has is less than Kedusha has. When Yidden are exiled, and then and Yidden, of course, get Chayas in the Pnimius. In other words, when Yid, which comes from Kedusha, is in Galus, so Klipa gets more. In Izui Galus Shlema. That's the true concept of Galus HaShechina, because Klipa by itself is also in Galus HaShechina, but Klipa by itself is a Chatchila only Acherayim. So the amount of Chayas Klipa B'chlal gets is diminished. And it's B'derech Galus. When a Yid brings to Klipa more Chayas, that's a true concept of Shechina, because you're taking really Pnimius Dike Chayas, which should be bottled to the Eibishter, which should reveal Elokus, and you're putting it into a position of Ein Chovesh Materes Atzma Beis HaSurim. Which is why the Gemara speaks about Yidden being connected to the Eibishter. When Yidden go into Galus, the Eibishter goes into Galus. I thought the Eibishter was already in Klipa from the time of Sheitzmei Bereshis. Yes, he always was. But the Galus HaShechina Mitzad Bria was much less than the Galus HaShechina Mitzad Yidden being in Galus. So the Nekuda of the Shia, this is yesterday's Shia Tanya, Chav Ches. The Nekuda of the Shia is that we are insisting that the Eibishter is in Golus, in Klipa. Otherwise Klipa wouldn't exist. Now, then it's B'derech Golus. So it's not revealed, but it's there.